3 years ago, Governor Rick Scott rejected federal money for a high-speed rail connecting Orlando with Tampa. Fast forward today, and All Aboard Florida is on the cusp of being the first private rail line in the U.S. in 30 years. If approved, this multi-billion-dollar project will connect Miami to Orlando with station stops in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. The plan is not without its obstacles. A committee has been organized to review some questions from residents as Governor Rick Scott calls for All Aboard Florida to be, quote, sensitive, end of quote, to these concerns. Joining me to discuss this, we welcome Julie Edwards, Chief Marketing Officer for All Aboard Florida. Julie, good to have you.
Thank you for having us. We're so appreciative of you wanting to talk to us about the project.
Well, if it runs well, if everything is projected accurately, it will be a positive game changer for, you could say South Florida, but really for the entire state.
Absolutely, for the
But
entire
a lot of people do have questions and concerns, especially areas where you have smaller towns and they're worried about the noise. They're worried about pollution, how it's going to affect their property values, because all of a sudden you have a commuter train going through areas where maybe you did not have an active rail system. So let's just start with, are you going to be using public dollars?
No public dollars, Helen.
This is all completely private?
This is all a private investment.
Including the land that you're going to be using? Part of it is private or part of it public? How does that work?
No, we own the land. We own, and let me just correct one thing that you said. We actually have the right-of-way on the existing freight corridor, so that is there today. And so the communities along the route all the way through to Brevard County, they have an active corridor freight corridor today, so now, that is happening.
Okay,
we do own the land.
So it is going. So that corridor is going to be both freight and commuter.
And passenger. That is correct. Not commuter, but passenger.
Passenger, which is where people are having some concern that the increased amount of traffic might create more noise.
Well, first of all, you have to understand that, and I want to just say, the state overall has really supported this. They recognize the benefit to the state and the economic benefits that everybody will appreciate. The facts that are out there, freight versus passenger, the sort of theory that there is going to be a lot more noise or the safety, won't be taken care of. When people actually understand, Helen, and we take them through the project and they understand that we're working with the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, with FDOT, with the Coast Guard, and we take them through the project, they do. Business, like-minded, educated people who understand the benefit of the project, they actually support the project, even if they do live along that corridor.
So how do you try to maintain, if you can, a train that travels at approximately 125 miles an hour at maximum speed, correct?
Yes, at the turn.
So how do you keep it more or less quiet? Is there a way of doing that?
Yeah, first you have to understand a freight car that is there today, that has been running for over 100 years on that corridor, is a long. It's about a mile and a half long. It's heavy. It is a little bit loud. Versus a passenger rail, which is less than 1,000 feet, 900 feet. It goes by and through a crossing in less than 60 seconds. Oh. It's light, it's fast, and it's much more quiet than a freight train. That's what people, I think, compare to.
Okay. So it's not a fair comparison.
It really isn't.
How many times is that train going to be going back and forth in one day?
Right now we are working on the scheduling and the planning and everything, but we're estimating, there'll be 16 northbound and 16 southbound trains a day, and they'll travel basically through the corridor or through a crossing, twice an hour.
There's a lot of debt associated with this project, which is not unusual. So how much is a passenger ticket going to cost?
Well, we haven't, just like any good product launch, you want to package it up and price it right, and we're in that planning right now. We know that it will be much less expensive than flying. We believe it'll be less expensive than driving. And it'll be somewhere in that range of less than $150, but more than $40.
Are you envisioning more a tourist passenger or a business passenger?
Actually, both. We've done a lot of study, we've done a lot of research on this, and our market is actually three markets. It's the business traveler, it's the tourist that's coming in, both in through Orlando and in through Miami, two huge gateways for the state, and also the resident, the leisure traveler. You and I living in Miami, we are the target as well, because we might want to travel to Orlando or to West Palm Beach.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you look at in this project is that Florida is divided in 4 sectors. And so this is an opportunity, a unique opportunity to connect if it can be done in a way, but we come back to pricing where it has to be affordable to the South Florida market.
Absolutely. And what we know from our research and our case studies that we've looked at, in Europe and Asia and other successful places where an under 3-hour time period to get people in a train is actually what people want. They want to have productive travel time. When you're flying and you have to go through the security and the hassle and everything that takes place to get you from the airport, from your house to parking to security, you have to take all of that in as non-productive travel time. When you are able to get on a train easily and sit back and choose how you want to travel, whether it be work or sleep or leisure or whatever, it's productive train travel time.
Has All Aboard Florida, the members and the partners, done rail work or been involved in rail projects or commuter passenger projects in other states?
And are you referring to FECI, the holding company? No, this is the first of its kind ever in the United States. No company has actually taken their assets, put them together in this manner, and leveraged an existing corridor, freight corridor, and added passenger rail to it. It's never been done in the United States.
So where are you getting your advisors from? You mentioned Europe and Asia, of course, but
yes.
Within the United States, or are you getting them from abroad? Where are you getting your expertise?
Yeah, well, we've had a team assembled for quite some time. FECI assembled a team, several years ago, and they have spent a lot of time working with different train companies across the world and studying it. We've commissioned ridership studies. We have looked at the demand. We've looked at the population. We've looked at what is happening on the corridor. So we feel really good about our proposition of how this is going to impact the state.
Amtrak always has budget problems. It never seems to work. So what makes you think All Aboard Florida will get it right, as opposed to the way publicly funded public train hasn't?
I can't speak for Amtrak, and and if you look at Acela, which is the most likely comparison to our product that is in the Northeast Corridor, it is a profitable business for Amtrak. You don't hear about that as much as what's happening to the bigger public transportation of Amtrak across the United States, but we have studied Acela, and it is a profitable business. But I think the important thing for people to know is our business is twofold. We are both the passenger rail and we are the transit-oriented development around that passenger rail. So in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, where we're putting the transit-oriented development, the urban core, we're building up that area to actually complement those cities.
In what way?
When you look at downtown Miami today, and Mayor Regalata and Mayor Jimenez just with us a couple of weeks ago, they said it best. This is a game changer for downtown Miami. The streets close up from 2nd to 9th when the government cities centers all shut down. At 4:30, 5 o'clock. This will bring urban core living to downtown Miami Central. It will become. So we feel like that revitalization, is good for the economy. It's
so
good
what
for the
kind
county.
of redevelopment are you looking in those areas? Housing?
Yes,
you're
actually,
looking,
residential, retail, corporate businesses moving into downtown, which would be fantastic. And we have that in all 3 areas, Miami being the largest, obviously, development.
What kind of parking? You anticipate people going to the station, leaving their car there?
Yes, or busing or cabbing there. But we will have parking. We will have parking garages in and around our development that we are developing as well to both supplement the new population and also take care of the parking in downtown Miami today, because where our development is actually, and I don't know if you have seen that land track, I think we have have shown that a few times, but the 9 acres that we're developing is on that surface parking lot today, and we'll build up to meet the people mover and the metro mover and the metro rail.
There is a review board that is going to be meeting July 2nd,
yes,
which is going to be a real big meeting to determine whether you can actually go forward or not.
Yes.
What do you anticipate the challenges in that meeting,
yes,
and do you think it's going to get approved?
Yes. Well, first of all, as I mentioned, the city and the county have been very, very supportive. The first meeting was June 13. That was with the lower council meeting. This meeting on July 2nd is with the executive council, and we feel like that it will go smoother. It will go smoothly. We have all along been bringing the city and the county together with us and really looking at the master plan, and we really don't anticipate any challenges. We're not closing down roads. We're actually working with the street patterns that are there today in downtown Miami.
So is it fair to say that if the cost of the passenger ticket, in order to make it successful, affordable, accessible to the common passenger, the way your organization is really going to make money is going to be through the development surrounding the rail?
Well, both. I mean, we are one company, mutually beneficial to one another. It's one company, and we will be successful and profitable because both businesses work together.
Warren Buffett, I read some months ago, is also buying a rail.
He
owns he owns quite a bit. Why rail? What is the big deal with rail?
I think the visionaries, and I like to think that the people who had the vision for All Aboard Florida many years ago, they see the infrastructure that rail corridors bring to the United States, and we're behind. We're behind Europe. We're behind Asia. The infrastructure that is needed to put passenger rail in play, it isn't there today, and it's certainly not there if taxpayers have to fund it, because they don't want to fund it. And large infrastructure projects such as this are put in place usually by the government, highways and bridge repair and things like this. It's very rare when you see a private company investing this type of capital to improve and leverage existing rail corridors. And Warren Buffett's not alone. We're right there with him.
Julie Edwards, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you.
Palm Beach. The plan is not without its obstacles. A committee has been organized to review some questions from residents as Governor Rick Scott calls for All Aboard Florida to be, quote, sensitive, end of quote, to these concerns. Joining me to discuss this, we welcome Julie Edwards, Chief Marketing Officer for All Aboard Florida. Julie, good to have you.
Thank you for having us. We're so appreciative of you wanting to.
Because all of a sudden you have a commuter train going through areas where maybe you did not have an active rail system. So let's just start with, are you going to be using public dollars?
No public dollars, Helen.
This is all completely private?
This is all a private investment.
Including the land that you're going to be using? Part of it is private or part of it public? How does that work?
No, we own the land. We own, and let me just correct one thing that you said. We actually, talk to us about the project.
Well, if it runs well, if everything is projected accurately, it will be a positive game changer for, you could say South Florida, but really for the entire state.
Absolutely, for the
entire state. But a lot of people do have questions and concerns, especially areas where you have smaller towns and they're worried about the noise. They're worried about pollution, how it's going to affect their property values. Because 3 years ago, Governor Rick Scott rejected federal money for a high-speed rail connecting Orlando with Tampa. Fast forward today, and All Aboard Florida is on the cusp of being the first private rail line in the U.S. in 30 years. If approved, this multi-billion-dollar project will connect Miami to Orlando with station stops in Fort Lauderdale and West.
We have the right-of-way on the existing freight corridor, so that is there today. And so the communities along the route all the way through to Brevard County, they have an active corridor freight corridor today, so now, that is happening.
Okay,
we do own the land.
So it is going. So that corridor is going to be both freight and commuter.
And passenger. That is correct. Not commuter, but passenger.
Passenger.